I forgot which layout I had to switch to. Whoops. Okay, okay. Okay, so now we've got our Metroid 2, the original speedrun by MTI. He's doing 100%. I clicked the wrong button. Okay, there we go. Hello, MTI. So yeah, if you want to introduce yourself or the run or whatever, and then just count it down when you're ready to go. Yeah, it should be. What? Yeah, your mic's not going through.
Ah, let's try that. Okay. Now you should be able to hear me. Let's see. La 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 la. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay, now I'm good. Oh, there we go. Okay, people are saying yay, yay. Alright, there we go. Looks like we're good now. Alright, let's try all that again, shall we? Hello, my name is MTI, and I speedrun Metroid 2. This is the 100%, I guess technically 100% no out of bounds, but I'll get into that a little more as we get into the run here. So I guess we'll count this down now. 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, so Metroid 2, Return of Samus. You'll notice right away, you start off with the Morph Ball. Game is like, yeah, just roll to your heart's content. And I'm like, okay. And I, in fact, am going to be taking advantage of that for the first probably 15 to 20 minutes of the run. And the reason for that is that you actually roll faster than you run at the start of the game. And we'll get into that a little bit more as we get there. Basically, at the start of the game, you roll at a speed of 2 pixels per frame, and you run at a speed of 1.5 pixels a frame. You kind of alternate between 1 pixel and 2 pixels from frame to frame. So, the object of Metroid 2 is actually to destroy all of the Metroids. At this point in the timeline, the Space Federation, Galactic Federation, what have you, has decided that the Metroids are too dangerous to be allowed to continue to exist, which is probably a smart move on the Federation's part. One of the few smart moves the Federation has made in the history of the Metroid series, quite frankly. And so they send a recon team to SR-388, the Metroid home planet, and that team is never heard from again. So they send a couple military teams to SR-388, and those teams are never heard from again either. And at this point, the Federation acquires some pattern recognition skills and says, hey, if we keep sending our teams to SR-388, they are probably going to continue to never be heard from again. We need a new plan here. Anyone got anything? And the Galactic Federation, the paragons of, intellectualism that they are, they put their heads together, and the plan they come up with is, hey, remember that Samus Aran lady? She's helped us out with the Metroids before. Why don't we just send her to SR-388? And so that's how the game starts. Now, what I'm doing here is called damage boost jumping. Damage boost jumping is when you take damage in this game, the game kind of knocks you up in the air, but more importantly, the game allows you to jump again, even if you've already jumped, and even if you're in midair. It's kind of... not really sure why that is, but I will definitely take it. Also, no, not really. There is one point in this run where I probably should make a safety save, and I won't be, because hashtag YOLO swag overload. Also, the 120 estimate is very, very high, I will say that. I wanted to include the ending and setup and all that in there, but realistically, if I don't die and I get above, like, 104, that's really not a particularly good run, so... Anyway. I see some people in the chat asking what console I'm playing this on. I'm playing this on a Game Boy Player. was a accessory for the GameCube that basically turned your GameCube into a Game Boy Advance. In fact, I believe hardware-wise, it literally is a Game Boy Advance minus, like, the interface. Is the problem. Okay, plan B. So now I don't have enough health to do all the damage boosts I want to do. That's upsetting. Now I really don't have enough health to do all the damage boosts I want to do. Okay, that's fine. Let's do this the slow, safe way, then. It's fine. Whatever. In a world record attempt, that would probably be a reset, honestly. There's a couple of damage boosts in that tunnel I just didn't do. 104 isn't a very good run. Yeah, for reference, the second place time in this is about... If you adjust for kind of various factors that, again, I'll be getting into, the second place time is like 104.30 or thereabouts, so... And my best time is 101.42, I think, so... Alright. Also, yes, shoutouts again to Beat Percent. There we go, I'll put a safety save there just because. And now we're gonna go get our first major upgrade, the bombs, or bomb, as the game calls it. You apparently get only one bomb, according to the game. So. There it is, bomb, as you can see. I better choose carefully where I elect to use this bomb, because I apparently only get one, according to the game, and there we go. I guess I'll use it to get these missiles here. That is our first missile expansion. Missile expansions in this game give you, actually, 10. They increase your missile capacity by 10. And there are 22 expansions in the game, and you start with 30 missiles. So your overall maximum capacity is 250. The highest capacity you will ever see in my display is 240, because I get my last missile refill before I grab the last missile refill, then I fight a Metroid, then I grab the last missile pack. So. Bomb hype. Yes. So we're gonna go get, you mentioned Kenta in the previous run. Kenta and Dragon Dark mentioned doing a damage boost to get a missile expansion. That's what we're gonna try to do right here. Not this one, but this one here. A lot of the past runs actually shot the two blocks directly above and below one another. I find shooting out this block makes it a lot easier. Got it. Nice. Doo-doo. Alright, run's going pretty well so far. Doo-doo. Now we're gonna go get our next power-up, the Spider Ball. Also, something that I'm doing here on a lot of these steps is I am doing what's called crouch jumping. And the way crouch jumping works is you crouch and then jump. That's literally it. But what crouch jumping actually does is it lowers your maximum jump height. Jumping works kind of strangely in this game. You have at the start of the game, before you get the high jump boots, you have a maximum jump height of about 4 blocks, and you have precise control over your jump up to about 2 to 2.5 blocks. And then beyond that height, you basically have to do the full jump. If you crouch and then jump, however, your maximum jump height gets lowered to 3 blocks, which is helpful when you have to do a bunch of jumps up like those stairs, for instance. So now we're gonna go kill another Metroid. We fought one Metroid about a minute into the game. We'll be fighting another one here. These are Alpha Metroids. Alpha Metroids take 5 missiles to kill, and they kind of lazily move toward you. There's not really a whole lot else to say about them. They are some of the more random Metroids in the game in terms of where they go after they get hit. Most of the time, if you hit them in a certain position, they will go a certain direction, but not all of the time. And yes, as a Kenta/Poke2Mon3 said, there are actually about a dozen or so quote-unquote regular Game Boy games that actually have these cool alternate palettes, Metroid 2 being one of them. I think the original Wario Land is another one. Like, not Super Game Boy optimized. These are literally games that came out, well, at least some of them did, prior to the Super Game Boy's release, so. And this happens to be one of them. And if you hit various button and direction combinations, you can actually change the colors that load. Somewhere on my channel, I have a highlight of a reverse color palette run, which was an interesting experience that I never want to go through again. So, I'm gonna go take out the rest of the Metroids in what I call Phase 1. Metroid 2 is one of the more linear games in the Metroid series, in terms of kind of the macro level. What I mean by that is kind of from phase to phase. What you have to do is, you have to basically kill all the Metroids in a phase, and what happens at that point is there is acid throughout the planet, and when you kill enough Metroids, the acid lowers and lets you into the next area. On a more micro level, there actually is more freedom than I think the game is given credit for in terms of the order in which you grab various power-ups and the actual order in which you kill the Metroids. But on a higher level, like I said, a more macro level, the game is pretty linear with one obvious exception that I'll get to when I get there. Oops. I was trying to roll there. Rolling is faster than running, but you do have to take into account the actual time it takes you to morph and unmorph. There are tool-assisted runs of this that basically any time they're on the ground, they're in morph form. Because, you know, being tool-assisted, they can morph and unmorph essentially instantly. Being a mere human, I cannot do that. I fire that missile just because I feel like it makes that jump across the Metroid shell more consistent. It's probably just like a placebo effect, honestly, but the Metroid shells do weird things to your speed and kind of to your physics. That's not great. Okay. That worked out. We mentioned drops earlier, and how drops in the original Metroid are entirely random. In Metroid 2, whether an enemy will drop something is random, but what it will drop is fixed. And that's from game to game. So a given enemy will always drop. If it drops something, it will always drop either energy or missiles, but it'll never switch back and forth. So we have now completed what I call Phase 1, and the reason that I call it Phase 1 is because this is actually the second earthquake in the game, but... Yes, I have a cape, so... I'm kind of trying to glance at the chat when I can here. Yes, the morph button was not invented yet, so I have to kind of double tap. Okay, that's not how I meant to do that, but that's fine. So, coming up here, in about, I'd say 3 minutes, you're going to see a very cool series of damage boosts called, what I like to call the Skyscraper. I did not come up with the trick, although I did name it, I think. Nope, need-based drops begin with, Super Metroid. And even then, need-based is kind of oversimplifying it. It will kind of weight it towards what the game thinks you need, but it's not necessarily what you actually need, if that makes sense. It's essentially what you're kind of lowest with. It'll give you a better chance of getting that particular drop in Super Metroid. But as you can see, that these enemies here, they drop some energy. Also, you'll notice the acid is gone, like I was saying earlier. Yes, the select button in Metroid 2. We will get to that as well. Let's see here. Do I want to do that there? No. Okay. Do it here. There we go. Alright, that worked out well. So the select button in Metroid 2 is the button which switches back and forth between your beam and your missiles. That's not very noteworthy on its own. The issue is if you hit select at the right/wrong time, without getting super technical, what happens is instead of the game loading the correct terrain in front of you, the game instead just barfs down whatever it last had in its memory. And so the net effect of this is walls and floors will just suddenly show up where they shouldn't. And more germane to speedrunning, walls and floors will disappear from where they should be. And this is actually the glitch that you use to get out of bounds. As I mentioned, in the schedule, this says 100%. It's technically 100% no out of bounds. We really haven't reached a final consensus on what to call the categories. In other words, if it'll be 100% and then 100% with out of bounds, or, you know, the out of bounds will be the main category, and then the, you know, and then what I'm currently doing will be 100% no out of bounds. Let's see if I can do this. I screwed that up. Good job, me. Oh well, that's fine. So coming up here, I'm going to get a missile expansion and then the skyscraper. Okay, so we're gonna hesitate a little bit here so we don't smack into this guy. That guy right there. He's bad news. We'll knock you down. Alright, here we go. So let's see if we can do this. Okay, that's fine. It's not the greatest way to... I suppose if I'm going to miss it, that's not a terrible way to miss it, because I at least didn't take any damage. Like, that's fine. Also, I can honestly say that's never happened before. Of all the ways I've missed the skyscraper or screwed it up, I've never just missed everything before, so... There we go, we got it the second try. Alright. Hi, enemy. Okay, there we go. Nice. Oh, we should, if I execute everything correctly, even be able to stay at a beat percent. Oh, no, wait, never mind. Yeah. One thing I will say is I don't like calling the category Secret Worlds, because that's not what they are. Oh boy. Why am I so bad at this all of a sudden? Suddenly I cannot fight Arachnus in 2 rounds, but anyway, that's Arachnus. We beat him, we get the Spring Ball. So now we can do a cool trick called the Spider Throw. But anyway, Secret Worlds is kind of a term from the original Metroid, back before anybody really understood what was going on with the Out of Bounds. The worlds aren't secret. There aren't, like, these hidden worlds in the map just waiting to be discovered. It's the same world, it's the same map. You're just kind of getting to it a different way. So that is the one thing I will say I don't want to call the category. I want nothing to do with Secret Worlds. Just Out of Bounds or no Out of Bounds is fine. Anyway, I think the interim consensus, not to sound conceited, was effectively MTI's any percent no, or MTI's 100% no Out of Bounds is so far ahead of anybody else that it would be the record even in the Out of Bounds category for the moment. Let's table this discussion until it's more meaningful. Yeah. That's what happens when you have, like, a 2-year head start in the category. So, yeah. So we have the Spring Ball now, and I was kind of interrupted by myself. As I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted myself. Anyway. The Spring Ball, we can combine that with the Spider Ball to do something called the Spider Throw. And actually, you've seen me do a tiny, tiny variants of the Spider Throw, but now we can really see it in its full glory, so to speak. And what happens is you get into the air in a ball, and obviously the easiest way to do this is with a Spring Ball, but you can also bounce off the ground for a little bit of height. And you activate the Spider Ball while you're going left while you do this, and for whatever reason, instead of moving at your normal airspeed, which is 1 pixel per frame, the game just has you keep rolling along at 2 pixels per frame in the air. But it only works when you're going left. And, I'll be honest, I haven't really done 100% research into the reason it only works when going left. The theory that I read was basically when the programmers tried to make the Spider Ball work. Also, what was that? That was interesting. Okay, another series of damage boosts here. Get out of this shaft. Basically, to make the Spider Ball actually work, it places a modifier on your Y velocity, so in other words, it basically lets you stick to the wall and or to the ceiling. And there's a theory that they screwed up and also applied a negative to your X velocity as well, which makes you go flying to the left. Also, it looks like you actually go flying to the left even faster than you roll. You actually don't. It's an optical illusion. I tested this myself in an emulator looking at the relevant addresses, and it shocked me as much as it no doubt shocks all of you. Also, shoutouts to Mario the Cat. He's in the house. Gonna go take a look outside the window. Watch a little cat TV. Alright, so we have to get out of this room. Shoutouts to Chronic Sauce, who showed me how to get out of this room, even though it later turned out he was actually just rediscovering how the tool-assisted run gets out of this room. There are a number of people who have done more research and, frankly, advanced the state of Metroid 2 speedrunning more than I have. I just happen to be the guy who liked the game enough to steal everyone's strats and put it all together in a run. Which I guess there is value in, but anyway. So Chronic Sauce is one of them. Chronic Sauce is like my polar opposite. Chronic Sauce loves doing theory crafting of various runs, Super Metroid, Metroid 2, like researching strategies. He just hates doing actual runs. Whereas I'm the opposite. I really like doing runs, and I don't like resetting, and practicing individual parts of runs, I honestly find bores me to death a lot of the time, so... Alright, now we're gonna go get a Alpha Metroid stuck in the ceiling. Should be fun. We can do this, right? Yes, Kenta has also done a number of strategies here. Okay, we're not gonna get him stuck in the ceiling, that's fine. You can do that. I'll live with that. Whatever. Metroid did not want to cooperate. By the way, this particular missile tank is an evil, evil missile tank. I have no idea how you're supposed to know this is here. Yeah, stuck in the ceiling hype, except I did not get him stuck in the ceiling because I am not good at Metroid 2. Sorry, everybody. Now we're gonna get Bavaria. And Bavaria has an interesting property in this game. Yes, it lowers the damage you take, and that's cool. Although it's not a straight 50% reduction. It kind of varies from enemy to enemy. For Metroid, it's more like a 20% damage reduction. But the other interesting thing it does is... it lets you run faster. I now roll and run at the same speed. So now, basically, I'm going to be rolling a lot less, unless I specifically need to get through a small space, and or I specifically need to spider throw. Because I can just run now. Gonna quickly open my water here. Alright, so... our next step is to go fight a Gamma Metroid. Gamma Metroids take 10 missiles to kill. They're a little bit... they attack pretty much in the same way as Alpha Metroids, but they're a bit faster and more aggressive. And they have this lightning attack that basically you cannot hurt them during. Now, in a speedrun, Gamma Metroids are actually the most difficult mutation to deal with overall. Now, if you played this game casually, you're no doubt saying to yourself, but MTI, what about Zeta Metroids? And well, we have methods of dealing with Zeta Metroids, don't you worry. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So, the first thing I'm going to try to do on this first Gamma, I'm going to try to lock it down in a corner, so it can't actually do anything to me. We'll see if I get it right. I don't know why I rolled there. That's not where I needed to roll. This is where I needed to roll. Alright, Gamma Metroid! I'm going to try and lure it into that corner there. Ah, I didn't unmorph. That's irritating. Okay, so we'll have to fight it the normal way. That's a bunch of time lost. I otherwise executed that pretty well, but oh well. No big deal. I have to say, in a general sense, I actually really like doing marathon runs, because when I screw up, it's not a big deal, as odd as it sounds. Like, if I were going for attempts, it would be like, record over, reset. But it's like, here it's just like, whatever. And as much as I'd like to say that's never happened before, at the very least, I've screwed that particular lockdown up plenty of times. I'm pretty sure I've screwed it up in that particular way before, so... I'm gonna short that, so we're just gonna hop there. Alpha's in kind of a not good place. Aha! We have one more Metroid to kill, but that is not actually the end of this phase for my splits. There's actually one more missile tank I still have to collect, which will give me a maximum of 170 at the moment. And so... other people who contributed things to this run are Bright Star, way back in the day, actually discovered the spider throw. And he also discovered, actually, how to get out of bounds. He discovered the concept of the select glitch. And there's a website that actually... there's a website somewhere. I think I have it somewhere in my browser, but I don't know the address off the top of my head. That actually mentions where some of the secret worlds, quote-unquote, take you, even though, again, they're not really secret worlds. Also, someone, I think JC87 was the person working on finding out how the map is actually laid out in the game's memory, and it's very strange. It's not one giant cavern, like you would think. In fact, if you try to map this game out as one giant cavern, it doesn't work. Like, the walls and things kind of crash into one another, which is actually pretty cool. It kind of contributes to the feeling of, like, this alien geography if you're trying to map this game out on your own. At least I think so. Alright, looks like we're good. Sometimes the spider ball will just not stick to this wall. It'll just be like, no, you're going down. I'm like, oh, okay. This is another kind of evil missile tank. There we go. Alright. So now we're going to move on to the next phase, where there are a lot of Gamma Metroids. Also, this is a... Well, I won't say it's a new route. It's probably about a month old, 2 months old. For the 100% in this game. We used to... I'll do a safety save, because why not? In my current PB/record run of this, I grab 3 missile refills, and we recently discovered that that is far from optimal. You really only need 2. And in fact, depending on which 2 you grab, you might be able to get away with only 1 missile refill. But I still think 2 is actually faster. I'll save again. One of the nice things about Metroid 2 is that saving is instantaneous. Like, the actual act of safety saving, provided you are going past a save post, costs, like, no time at all. It's like, oh, hit start. Oh, you're saved. Cool. Move on. And for that reason, I think Metroid 2 is actually a very good kind of beginner Metroid game to learn. There are other reasons I think it is also a very good quote-unquote beginner Metroid game to learn, but... Like, that's the main one. Like, in a race situation, the actual act of saving does not cost you any time at all. And, you know, dying, you know, costs you the time from your last save, but... Oh, excuse me as I take a quick sip of my water there. So here we're spider throwing down these caverns. We now have, this particular phase is the largest in the game in terms of the number of Metroids you have to kill. There are 10 Metroids in this phase. So, this next area here, I'm going to be continually morphing and unmorphing, because when you hit the ground as a ball, if you hit the ground from too high, you actually bounce back up in the air. And so... it's quicker to unmorph and remorph, except for right there, than it is to try to get through, than it is to wait to hit the ground, basically twice. Alright, this is the area you go to with 16 Metroids left. Or at least it's supposed to be. No, I'm sorry, that's actually the area you go to with 15 Metroids left. Or at least it's supposed to be the area you go to with 15 Metroids left, but more on that when we get there. So there's not a whole heck of a lot to mention here. Other people to shout out are Carl MM2, who had the record in this game before I came along in the 100% category. Let's see, yes, okay. So what we used to do was we used to get a, I screwed that up, okay, let's see here. There we go. I'll take the double damage boost, it's fine. We used to grab a missile refill right there, but we hold off on that refill now until later on. Now we're going to go get the Space Jump, which is an iconic power-up. In the 2D Metroids, it lets you jump infinitely. In the 3D Metroids, it lets you jump twice. Also, note to the entire speedrunning community, you're welcome. Now, why do I say that? Well, back in the day, one of the first speedruns that really got widespread internet coverage was a speedrun of Metroid Prime. It ended up on Slashdot back in the day. Around 2003, I'd say this was. And so that was what kind of introduced people to the concept, introduced a lot of people to the concept of speedrunning. Also, Final Boss Bug. Alright, I fought Final Boss Bug to a draw. That's fine. And so... one of the big speedrun tricks in Metroid Prime is Space Jump first. Like, that was what really broke Metroid Prime speedrunning wide open, and really probably led to, you know, if indirectly, the idea that, you know, probably what lent Metroid Prime a lot of its longevity back in the day. And so, effectively, without Metroid 2, speedrunning culture and speedrunning as a... you know, speedrunning as we know it today might be very different depending on how things kind of developed from there. So, and because this was the game that actually introduced the Space Jump, so. Anyway. Alright, 1, 2, 3. Just... We hit the one platform on the way down, and here's another Gamma Metroid. Gamma Metroids, if you can pull it off, you generally want to try and get them kind of stuck above your head like this. Ah! Okay, there we go. Fine. You hit me, but that's fine, whatever. Or maybe a better way to exit this. Because you'll notice with the space jump, you have to kind of go past the peak of your jump a little bit before you can jump again. Also, even though we have the space jump, a lot of the time it's still faster to just damage boost jump to get up long shafts wherever you can. Where? Now we're gonna go get a hidden missile expansion here. Again, there are 22 in the game, all told. We're gonna try to... Oh, nice. Didn't get sniped by those guys. Metroid 2 does not actually have a lot of RNG to it for the most part, especially in the 100% category, where I don't really have to worry about drops. RNG, in case you're not familiar with speedrunning, stands for Random Number Generator. It's basically what determines luck in your speedrun. Because we're speedrunners, we can't just say luck. Like, that's the simpleton's term, please. So no, we have to say RNG, and Metroid 2 does not really have a lot of RNG. Also, I was completely not counting correctly there. I was too busy rambling to properly count the number of missiles I had put into that Gamma Metroid. So, you know. Alright, so again, we're gonna do damage boost jumps up there. These guys moving back and forth here, they are also some of the more random elements in the run, if they decide to flamethrow you or not. And so the reason that we morph is because there's something called the insta-unmorph in this game, where if you are in morph ball form, when you take damage, if you unmorph just as you get hit, instead of bouncing up in the air, you'll just fall straight down, or not jump, if you happen to be on the ground. And so the reason I morph in those tunnels is in case I do get unlucky and the flames are in my way, I can just unmorph and not lose quite as much time as I would otherwise. Alright. So we got that E-Tank. In the any percent run, that is actually an E-Tank that you skip. There are 6 E-Tanks in this game overall. You can hold a maximum of 5, but we get all 6. And if you were to skip one for whatever reason, which again, I'll get into that in a bit. Wow, that guy did not like me. He just dropped his fire on my head. That was good. Alright. So now we skipped a Gamma Metroid. We're gonna go back and fight that particular Metroid now. He's hanging out up here. Hi, buddy. Ah. You are way the heck over to the right. I don't like you being way over to the right. Alright, we're gonna see if I can do this. Got it, nice. That's actually pretty tricky, to shoot upward and get up in the same jump. And now we're gonna go kill the rest of the Metroids. We're gonna see my personal favorite trick in the game coming up here, the PDB, or the Pimp Damage Boost. Also, I'll take another safety save just because. At this point, I'm really not worried about... I may lose time in various places, but if I die, something is very wrong. At this point, if I die, it is very likely that something horrific has happened to me in real life. Let's put it that way. Alright, I'm gonna go take this missile refill here. Should have 210 missiles if I did everything right, which I did. Good. Oh, bonk. So. Ow. Okay. Okay, sure. It's fine, I don't need energy. Really? It's good. So now we're gonna go get... Oh man, 360 peripherals. I think you need look no further than the 360, the various hard drives for the 360 to prove that. Like, they were always much, much more expensive than a comparable, like, PC external hard drive. Yep, yeah, the beams in Metroid 2 work like the beams in the original Metroid. where whatever the last beam you get is, that's the beam you have, period, end of story. And so as a... Okay, that's cool. I'll just not get damage boosted up. It's fine. Ah, why am I having such difficulty here? Alright. Okay. What? I cannot space jump for the life of me all of a sudden. There we go. Alright. Does not bode well for this, but whatever. Let's try this. Okay, that was an interesting way to get bounced. Jeez. The worst run. Remember when I said if this is a 104, it's a terrible run? Yeah, we might be in terrible run territory here, folks. Alright, I don't know what that was. So what I was trying to do was damage boost off this Metroid up to this corner here, so I would not have to take the time to spider all the way up here. But, oh well. Whatever. Jeez. Okay, there we go, finally. Terrible run territory hype. Yeah. Yeah, so we were discussing beams earlier, and this run, even though it is a 100% run, the only beam I get is the ice beam, for precisely that reason. The beams all obsolete one another, and I'm kind of going off of the precedent of games like A Link to the Past, where the quote-unquote 100% run doesn't get the blue mail, for instance, because it just gets obsoleted by the red mail. If you want to call it not a true 100% run, I did some kind of calculations and found out that where we get the other beams takes about 53 seconds. So if it irritates you that much, just add 53 seconds onto my time, and we'll call it good. Yeah, the colors come from the Game Boy player that I'm playing this on, which I guess in turn come from the Game Boy Color. Alright, so let's go here. I don't know about the Super Game Boy. I should try it sometime. I have a Super Game Boy. Alright, sure. Alright, that's where we want to get this Metroid. Maybe I'm stuck up there. So I have 3 E-tanks, which is plenty. Kirby Master was actually the person who showed me this kind of series of damage boost here, although he does a 5th damage boost. Kirby Master is also a person who has done some cool stuff with this game. Like I said, I myself have done very little to actually advance Super Metroid. Well, I have done very little to advance Super Metroid speedrunning theory. That is definitely true. But in terms of Metroid 2 speedrunning theory, I haven't done much in terms of actually advancing it. I'm just the person who executes everything. I guess of the things I have done, the closest thing I've probably done is... Okay, that's cool, I'll just stretch out the game, that's fine. The closest thing I've done is probably the way of fighting the last Alpha Metroid in Phase 1, the rolling into that area. And then the other thing that I've done is I've come up with, theoretically, if you execute it correctly, a consistent way of doing the first Gamma lockdown. I didn't come up with the lockdown, but I figured out how to get it pretty consistent if you execute it correctly. Which I did not do this time. Yes, this is the acid trip. This is the one kind of major macro-level sequence break in the game. You're actually supposed to have one more, you're supposed to kill one more Metroid before you come here. But we're speedrunners, we don't have time for that. Also, shoutouts to Beat%. Hope you all like Beat%. By the way, the easiest way to prevent the select glitch is basically to hit select when the screen isn't moving. I try to do that. Alright. Now we grab this energy refill. That energy refill is basically what makes this particular acid trip possible. So now the acid that we went through is not going to be there anymore, because while I was supposed to kill one more Metroid before the acid lowered, the game doesn't care which Metroid I kill to lower the acid. It just cares that I kill a Metroid. And the reason that we go into this area at this point is because it is far out of the way from either the area I'm actually supposed to go to, with 16 Metroids left, or the area that I go to after it. Basically, if we call this Area 2 is far away from either Area 1 or Area 3, where I'm supposed to go to next. And Area 1 and Area 3 are right next to each other. I'm trying to abstract it out for you, so, you know, It's not the actual Area 1, quote-unquote, in the game, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. Basically, this area is way out of the way from the area before it and the area after it, so we do it now because it's much faster. We would have to backtrack all the way here otherwise, which we're speedrunners, we don't have time for that. So, there are actually a couple other places in the game you can, There are a couple other places in the game that you can do a, acid trip. But the problem is, the way the game is structured, you'll notice I'm, most of the time, just kind of going down deeper and deeper into the planet. So any Metroids that I skip, by doing so, I'm eventually going to have to go back up and kill anyway. It just so happens this area is not one you stay in anyway, it's an offshoot area. So it actually makes it advantageous to do the acid trip here. Unrelated note, watch for my new jazz fusion band, The Acid Trip Theory, and their debut album coming soon. Anyway. So now we're going to go to the actual area I was supposed to go to 2 Metroids ago. And bounce back up here. It is possible to do this without bouncing at all. But it's kind of tricky. Yes, I am playing this on a Game Boy player. So. Oop. Shoot that guy. Take him out. So this is the area I was actually supposed to go to with 16 Metroids left. On the bottom right, you can see it reads 14. It might look like 19. That's just because, for whatever reason, Nintendo picked a terrible font. But it does say 14, not 19 Metroids left. So like I said, this is the area I was supposed to go to, and you'll notice there was acid. There was acid below me just before I entered this room. That's actually the area we go to with 13 Metroids left. So you can see why doing it in the order I did is much, much faster. Alright. I jump on the bigger platforms here because I think that's just the best way to go about this. Now, this room is kind of a pain in the butt to do correctly. The way missiles work in this game is, if you've ever played Super Metroid, it works similarly in the fact that they start out kind of slowly and then accelerate. The problem is, unlike Super Metroid, you can only have one missile on the screen at a time. Also, that was beautiful. I got a bunch of energy out of that. So if you miss with a missile, you are probably getting hit at least once, if not multiple times. Casually, by this point, you're supposed to have the Plasma Beam, which can also take those guys out. This Gamma, Giga Not a Behemoth, who is the person who currently has the any% Super Metroid record, as well as the any% record for this game. He has a way of kind of luring that Gamma kind of underground, if you will, and then, oh, what am I doing? Wow, that is so not right. And then dealing with it that way, but I haven't fully researched that yet, so. Alright. By the way, if anybody is curious, I am using a GBA SP as my controller here, so. Alright, so again, we do not try and spider throw across this room. I know I'm going right, so you can't do that anyway, but don't try it even going left. It will only end in pain and suffering for you. I speak from first-hand experience on that. Alright, so now you'll notice the acid over here is lowered, and this is the actual area we can go to with 13 Metroids left. This is the area that, for the first, and actually the only time, we fight Zeta Metroids. Zeta Metroids take 20 missiles to kill. You cannot hit them from above or below, and they kind of swoop at you and shoot fireballs. If you've ever played the game casually, Zetas are probably the scariest Metroid mutation, but again, we have ways of dealing with them to make them... Usually they're trivial. Very rarely they will decide not to play ball with you, and, you know, that's bad. Okay. So I'm gonna come over here. But first we have a Gamma Metroid to fight, and this Gamma Metroid is kind of annoying, because you have to fight it in a very narrow corridor. Also, I totally screwed that up. Good job, me. I was getting hit by these guys, it's fine. If in reaction to your shot, this Metroid bounces up, your shots will then go underneath it, and like that. And you then have to jump up to hit it. Alright, luckily that actually could have been a lot worse than it was. Hey, what's up, JRP? So I bounce over here and get a missile expansion. Overpowered. Yeah. I hopefully the chat is enjoying the run so far. Alright, so now we're gonna... Nope, I take that back. First we're going to jump up here. And I believe there is a save point over here, which we can use just because it's there. Why not? We'll use it. Why not? It's there, you know. Ah. Okay. So now we're gonna go fight our first Zeta Metroid. The method of dealing with them, and I hope this works, is as follows. Okay, that could be bad. No, we're good. Okay. So how you deal with Zeta Metroids, or at least 2 of them, is literally, as they spawn, let go of the control pad, mash missiles. And you don't even have to mash the missiles particularly fast, thankfully. I am not a very good masher, and as you can see, I did that without a problem, so... that works really well for 2 of the 3. The third one requires a bit more setup. We'll get to that as we fight that particular Metroid. It's the Metroid by the screw attack. So this is the beam shaft, or the beam shaft, we'll call it. What I used to do is start at the top and work my way down and end up with the ice beam, which takes about 53 seconds. But getting all the beams in this game is kind of silly, because you end up using all of them for like 5 seconds each. And so they all obsolete one another, so I just said forget it, I'm gonna stop doing that. It is worth noting, I did decisively beat the previous record, which did collect the beams before I started doing that, so... It's not just a matter of, oh, he just didn't want to get the beams, he's not good enough to get the record with the beams. No, it's not that at all. Okay. Let's see if I can... Ah, nope. Okay, cool. I'll have to fight this guy the normal way. Fine. Ah. What I was trying to do was get that gamma stuck up above my head, but I haven't figured out a 100% consistent way of doing it yet, so... Alright, so this is the gazebo effect, spiking off of these things, too. Also, I have a text message, which is probably Mrs. MTI saying, have fun. But, anyway. Probably on our break. So we got one more break today. It's not a big deal. Alright, again, damage boosting tends to be a bit faster than space jumping, so... 3, and 4, okay. So, here we go, we're gonna hop up here. This is another set of items that's kind of nasty if you don't know it's there. Also, I'm kind of amazed that worked. Alright. Uh-oh. Okay, we're good. Gonna bounce up here. Then we're gonna go fight probably the worst Metroid in the game. We're gonna go fight the Sand Gamma, which is just terrible. Yes, that is true. The Wario Land damage effect is the same as the damage effect of a lot of Metroids in this game. Actually, fun fact, Wario Land 4 and Metroid Fusion, both for the Game Boy Advance, they were actually created using the same game development engine. So, chew on that for a bit. Alright, so this is the Sand Gamma. I'm gonna try to use Behemoth's any % method of dealing with this guy. I don't have a lot of missiles. It's too fast. Cool. Ah! You jerk. Okay. Alright, that could have gone worse, I guess. Could have gone a lot better, but... Test 0. That wouldn't surprise me just because of the sound effects, but I don't actually know that for sure. Alright, so this is the dark room. Another fun fact, the Metroid 2 instruction manual mentions an infrared visor that lets Samus see in the dark. Yeah, it doesn't actually exist in the game. So we're gonna bounce up here, bounce up, hold right. Okay, cool. Do this. Hopefully get bounced up. Okay, cool. Unmorph. Get the tank. There we go, nice. Unfortunately, there are Metroid shells that you can fall through. That one right there is not one of them. You have to go through this the long way. Alright, so now we're going to come up with, we're going to do a trick called the Zeta Zag, which is a 3-way collaboration between myself, Chronic Sauce, and Behemoth. The actual method of fighting the Zeta is Behemoths, which he does in his any percent run. But in the any percent run, he doesn't actually get the screw attack. So it was Chronic Sauce who gave me the idea of trying to find a way to get the screw attack first, and then I came up with the actual method of doing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to bounce up here, get the screw attack. Get out of here, Zeta Metroid. I'll deal with you later. And we're going to go get our final, words are hard, okay? Our final major upgrade, screw attack. Let's see if I can quickly check this message. Heading home, okay. Okay, Mrs. MTI is coming home, that's fine. Alright, so now what we do is we're going to take some damage here, that's fine. We're going to come down, wait for it to swoop, we're going to hop up here. We're going to take damage here, that's fine. Wait for it to swoop again, and start mashing missiles. And pray it doesn't shoot a fireball at me. Oh, geez, that was close. Okay. So, you may have noticed it shot a fireball. Very rarely a Zeta Metroid will shoot a fireball and break out of the loop that you put it in. And then you're in trouble, but luckily it was late enough in the fight that it turned out that it didn't matter. So grab our final missile refill. We have 240 missiles. Our last upgrade is over there, but we're going to hold off on that for a moment. We're going to instead go fight this Gamma Metroid. Okay. There we go, okay. That's what we want. We want it up here. Oh, okay. You're going to hit me. Great. Okay. That went almost comically badly, but that's okay. We made it work. Here's our final major upgrade. Or our final missile expansion. That is the last upgrade we grab. And over here is our final Metroid of this phase. This is the Sand Zeta, which would be terrible in casual play, but the same basic concept we used for the first Zeta in particular, let go of control pad mash missiles, will also work on this Zeta. So. What is after this? Is it Super Metroid RBO? And you'll notice I just tried to save a few frames there by morphing to get out of here before the Metroid actually died. You can do that to save a few frames. It's kind of a high-level thing, simply because if you screw up and you exit the room before the Metroid dies, the Metroid gets all of its health back, and when you go to fight it again, it doesn't have the little morph to the next mutation pause. When you get close enough, it'll just attack you immediately, so... Ah, RBO's next. Yeah, you're going to want to watch that. That is a very cool run. I guess technically it's like... I guess now it would be closer to Rebo, unless there have been some new strats for RBO that I don't know about. Rebo, reverse... or Roibo, reverse of intended boss order. Since the new any percent run doesn't do the bosses in the quote-unquote intended order anymore. So unless something has changed in the RBO route. But anyway, that's, you know, that's me being a jerk about category names. Which, like I said, maybe there has been something new there. Alright, so we fell to the right there as opposed to the left just to avoid an enemy. The hyper run back, hyper solve. I don't know. Yeah, I watched Cop Power casually play Hyper Metroid. It was really cool. And I of course, watched part of the Hyper from yesterday. So, alright, this area. You'll notice that the screen faded all the way out and back in. And I mentioned earlier that trying to map the game as one giant contiguous area does not work. When the screen fades all the way out and back in, you're basically being teleported to a different area. It's kind of like elevators in a lot of the other Metroid games. Which is important here. Here's an Alpha Metroid. I don't really have too much else to say about Alpha Metroids at this point. But now, you are going to hear an earthquake, and this is the one point in the game where the acid actually rises. What the game intends for you to do is to go around in a loop, find out that you're trapped, and when you complete the circuit, you'll come across your first Omega Metroid. But all we actually have to do is unload the area and reload it like this. Because, as I mentioned, when the screen fades all the way out and back in like that, you're kind of teleported to another area. And as it turns out, that's good enough. So now we're gonna go fight our first Omega Metroid. Omega Metroids take 40 missiles to kill. 4-0. Now, they do have a weakness, however, which is good. We're gonna be taking advantage of that. So this Omega Metroid is going to come and he's going to swoop at me. And when he does, he's gonna just hang out there for a couple seconds. And I'm going to shoot it in the back. And, oh, by the way, Omega Metroids take triple the damage when you shoot them in the back. So, as you can see there, I went from needing 40 missiles to needing 16 because I accidentally broke him out of the loop. They stay still for about 2 seconds after they swoop, plus the time it takes them to kick their Omega feet there. But while they're kicking their feet, they're actually invulnerable, and your missile will just go right through them. Or you can do what I did and just miss altogether. That was fun. So, you know. By the way, throw up some Bible Thump 7s for this music, because this is the last time you're going to be hearing it. Which is too bad, because it's a really good track. After it fades out, after we go to the next area, you'll not be hearing this music again. Where am I going? I am not where I think I am. Okay, there we go. We're fine. I thought it was a room later than I actually was. That's fine. Oh, I like you guys. That's right. Bible Thump 7 for this music. Because rip this music. Starting here. Once I exit this room. Alright, so this is the crap just got real music. There are no energy or missile refills in this area. If you want to refill your energy or your missiles, you have to do it the old-fashioned way by farming enemies. And you will notice we're down deep enough in the planet that there's not even a whole lot of enemies to be eliminated here. And there are 3 big mean Omega Metroids to kill here. In a general sense, I actually really like the soundtrack of this game. I think it does a much better job of conveying, like, the alone on this creepy, hostile alien planet feeling than the first Metroid did. So this Omega behaved, which is nice. Where is my cat? Okay. My cat, no, I wish my cat were plotting ways to lay on my keyboard, because that would mean he would be here and I could see him. As it is, I can't see him, and it's actually kind of worrying me, because if Mrs. MTI is actually on her way home, I'm gonna have to backward B. Okay, no. Alright, okay, sure, we'll go with that, why not? I'm too busy worrying about my cat. Alright, after I kill the next Metroid, Maelstrom, are you there by any chance?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. After I kill this next Metroid, which will be in about a minute, could I by any chance get a pause on the timer? Because I want to make...
Sure.
Okay. I just want to... I apologize, everybody. I just want to make sure that Mario's not in the garage. Mario is my cat, by the way. Not the Nintendo character. I just want to make sure he's not in the garage when my wife opens the door. What'll happen in all likelihood is he'll just go taking off back into the condo, but I'll still wind up getting... She'll be like, why didn't you make sure he was in the house? And I'll be like, alright. So, alright, this Metroid here. Alright, let's see. so after I kill this Metroid, it'll be fine.
Yeah, just so.
Yep. Whoops. Oh boy. Wow, I am so bad at fighting Metroids. Okay, right there. Alright, be right back, everybody. Sorry about that. Alright, Mario, where you at? Okay, there we go. Alright, there was a good thing I did that, because he actually was out in the garage, as it turned out. Alright, I guess I'll count you.
Yeah.
I'll count you back in from 3. Alright, 3, 2, 1, resume. Alright. Alright, yep, there's Mario. He's watching some more cat TV, watching my window out there. Alright. So you'll notice we only have one Metroid left to kill. Woohoo! Metroid does not know how Babby is formed, so you know. So we fought, you know, alphas and gammas and zetas and omegas. And now the only thing left to do is to go kill the Metroid Queen. And to get there, we have this long, creepy walk to the end game, which is actually very neat from an atmospheric standpoint, because there's just nothing in these tunnels. It's just a long, barren, you know, dive and then walk to the end game. Which, you know, if this were a charity marathon, for instance, this would be an excellent place to read donations. Unfortunately, it is just a for-fun marathon, which means this is, from a gameplay perspective, I won't lie, actually kind of boring. But, you know, it is cool the first couple times you go here with the creepy music and the, like, oh god, what's next? Okay, so I'm going to try and do a double jump. You actually can do very short hops over these pits and not really lose any velocity, but I've never been very good at that, honestly. Jagger G does it very well, when he does any percent-related stuff. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump over these water pits for 2 reasons. The first is that the water slows you down to your jumping speed anyway. And the second is that it may be hard to tell, but in the middle of these pits there are actually hidden pitfalls that will drag you down a level. And if you fall down those hidden pitfalls, you can't just climb back up them. You have to go back up the long way around. Which is really irritating, actually. Again, in a, like, quote-unquote serious attempt, that would be attempt over reset, so. And I'm just gonna spider throw here. Alright, there we go. Now, you will notice I have only 3.5 E-tanks of energy remaining. And you might be wondering if that concerns me, and the answer is no, I am utterly unconcerned at my energy right now, but I'm gonna go take a safety save anyway, because it's there, because why not? Basically, in the high-level any percent run, you only get 3 E-tanks total. So, 3.5 tanks, well, it means I have not done this 100% run particularly well for various reasons. You know, that's still plenty of health to get me through the end here. Alright, so, you might be wondering why we grabbed the Ice Beam. Well, remember how I said that Metroid does not know how Babby is formed? Yeah, I lied. So now we have to fight larval Metroids. They work the same way they do in a lot of the other Metroid games. Freeze them and shoot them with 5 missiles. Sometimes one of your missiles will just not register, and you'll have to shoot it with a 6th missile. That's always fun when that happens. Doesn't really cost much other than a second or 2 a time, but, you know, it's still irritating. This is kind of a nasty trick the game pulls here, because while there is an Ice Beam, if you explore that big room I was in, just before the end game, there is an Ice Beam, but neither the game nor the manual ever tell you that, oh, by the way, you're going to be fighting larval Metroids, and you need that Ice Beam. And Mrs. MTI is calling me. Great. Alright. 1 second. Hi, I'm streaming. Hi, I'm streaming. Hi. What's up? What? Yes. What about it? Yeah, you can come in. Mario's not in the garage.
Alright. Yeah, sorry. Gotta go on it.
Okay. Okay. Alright. Love you. Love you. Bye. Okay, you probably heard part of that conversation, but okay. Okay. Let me do this. Where's my thing? There it is. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. So the Metroid Queen has 150 health. Rolling into her stomach, or no, I'm sorry. Hitting hitting her with a missile does 1 damage, rolling into her stomach and bombing her does 30, with 2 caveats. 1, even if you lay 3 bombs, she'll only take damage from 1 of the missiles. And 2, if you bomb her down... Yep. 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 Mario's not in the garage, that's right. So anyway, if you bomb her down to exactly 0 health, she doesn't die. Instead, she goes into, like, this zombie queen state, where she'll go back to her slow speed. You'll notice as she gets weaker, she snaps faster and faster. But, if you bomb her to exactly 0 health, she goes back to her slow speed, but she will not die no matter how many missiles you pump into her until you roll into her stomach and you bomb her again. Very strange. In any event, check out the baby, the baby, the baby. We all love the baby, the baby, the baby, right, guys? Also, by the way, time is going to be when I land in the ship. In probably about 20 seconds, maybe? I like the baby rage. Alright. So, let's see if I get this right. Oh god, where is it? I am way... Okay, there we go. And... time.
103.49.
Alright. That's not bad, actually.
Good job.
Thank you. That was all things considered. I will take that.
Now we get to see the broken in-game time.
Yep, yes, the broken in-game time is a lot of fun. I wrote a Reddit post about a year and a half ago on the broken in-game time, but the short version is when it does and doesn't decide to increment. Often basically has little to nothing to do with your actual skill at playing Metroid 2. Also, Mario, what do you... Okay. Now, I skimmed Mrs. MTI's text message. And, so, okay, I'm heading home, so Dad... I wanna go... Oh, okay. Let me actually reply to this text message. Essentially, the way the game increments its seconds is it doesn't use seconds at all. Instead, every 256 frames, it increments a counter, and every 14 times that counter increments, it loops up to the next in-game minute. Just trust me when I say the math comes close enough to working that if that were the end of it, it would be fine. But of course, that's not the end of it. What happens instead is, if you're in basically a screen transition when that 256th frame occurs, the game will just not count it'll just not count that 4¼ seconds or whatever it is. So. So, let's see, yeah, let's see what it...
That post in chat.
Yeah, let's see what happens here. Let me see that, yeah, now I feel bad, because she asked if we wanted to go out for lunch after. And I was like, oh, okay. 102, Well, then again, I did. Well, trying to think. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
That seems surprisingly accurate.
Yeah, that actually seems almost right. Although I did pause it a couple times. Oh well, whatever. Anyway, thank you all. That was...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me. Everybody stick around for Super Metroid Reverse Boss Order, which should be a lot of fun. Hopefully everybody enjoyed Metroid 2.
So we'll just move the setup now to get that setup ready for everyone.
Yep.
Thanks, Guy, for the run.
Yep, alright. Thank you. I will head off here. Bye-bye.